So I have recently created my YouTube channel, which is very exciting, but there are so many things to do before I can officially launch and get my first video out there. Now, I feel like people have been going on and on about AI recently, so I thought it would be a good idea to use AI to create both the profile picture and the channel art, because I figured that would be so much easier than doing it myself. Yeah, I was wrong. So a lot of these AI platforms all kind of work the same. You give it some sort of text prompt, and then an image is just generated. And there you have it. You have an image that you could just use. It's kind of crazy. I've seen a lot of YouTubers talking about this one called DALL-E 2. I think this is actually the OpenAI logo, but this is what comes up when you search for it, so they need to work on their branding. Maybe they should use their own AI. Anyway, DALL-E 2 seems to be super powerful, but I think only a handful of people have even gotten to use it. So I got access to this other platform called Midjourney, which I can actually use. So since people have been talking a lot about DALL-E 2, I'm going to talk real quickly about some of the differences between these two platforms. The first difference is in the output. So with DALL-E, let's say you give it a text prompt of, I want a labradoodle playing with a rope. It gives you, I believe, 10 images to choose from. You then say, I like this one. And it says, great, here it is. And that's it. Now, those 10 images are all gonna be pretty decent. It seems like the quality is really nice, and overall, they're just good images. But I believe that's as far as it goes, and the only other thing you could do is modify the prompt or run the prompt again if you wanted more images. So that highlights one of the defining features of Midjourney, where you give it a text prompt, it gives you 4 images. When you choose one of those, it will now reprocess 4 more images based off of that image that you picked, which you can do that over and over again and get a crazy number of variations. But you might select an image that you like, and then you can upscale that image into a higher resolution version. And then from there, you get an additional couple of choices where you can either upscale it even further, or you can make more variations based off of that higher resolution version. I think it's interesting in that you have a little bit more control over the variation that you get with each image, but it also means a little bit more work on your end in order to get to the image that you want to achieve. The second big difference between these two systems is how they handle style. So in a recent MKBHD video, he got to test out DALL-E 2 and sent a bunch of prompts over to it, and in one of those prompts, he had it try to create an image of a goat taking a selfie in the style of the Mona Lisa. So I wanted to see if I could use Midjourney to create something similar, and I feel like it didn't really, well, it didn't blow my mind, but it does highlight some of the differences between these two systems. I think in MKBHD's version, DALL-E really succeeds at capturing what is a goat. And I think for the Midjourney version, some of the brushstrokes and just attention to detail is slightly better in my opinion, but I just think it was interesting to put them side by side. Really, my point here is that when you give DALL-E a prompt, it seems to generate more photorealistic images. Images that look like they were taken with an actual camera. Whereas the default with Midjourney, unless you really push it and tell it you want something to look photorealistic, will give you something that is a little bit more stylized and looks more like concept art. And I think that's what most people tend to use it for. Moving on to difference number 3. It's just availability. Like I said, DALL-E, I can't use. It's a no-go. However, Midjourney is available. It has a Discord server where basically everything lives. People are creating crazy amounts of art on it every single day. Unfortunately, I had to blur this. When I first got started, I read through all of the rules, and one of them was like, you cannot show anyone else's art. To make up for it, here are some of the images that I've made as I've gotten to use it. And actually, all of the images that I've used to talk about Midjourney in this video have all been ones that I've made. But now, on to the actual task at hand. As you can see from some of the art that I had created, I was feeling pretty good about this whole project. I just had to figure out kind of what the theme was going to be, what the vibe was going to be, all of that stuff. Little did I know, I was going to spend 2 full days working on this. Now, over that time, I ended up creating hundreds of pictures for the profile picture and channel art, and there's just no way that I could show you everything that I created. So this time lapse is just to quickly flip through some of the many ideas that I explored in this crazy journey. But I'd like to walk you through some of the highlights and lowlights of where I finally ended up. This first set of images were the ones that were most promising, but for whatever reason just didn't work out. I call this one the watercolors. In the prompt, I told it to do it in a watercolor style, which I felt like it really did a good job of, but unfortunately, I just couldn't get it to look like me. I tried refining it a little bit, but this was as good as I could get. These images were inspired by Roy Lichtenstein. I did quite a few in this style, but again, didn't look like me. And while I liked the more abstract look, it was also just a very specific look. These two were in kind of a sketch look, which again, I think had a really interesting vibe to them. But again, they weren't really me, and if it was going to be a clear human face, I wanted it to be more abstract or have something obscuring the actual face. And these last ones were, it was more of a comic book style, but didn't end up pursuing it further. While I created a bunch that I probably could have just run with, for a lot of reasons, maybe some of my own preconceived ideas around what I wanted my profile picture to be, I just didn't end up liking the direction of most images. I guess that's why it ended up taking 2 days. But now onto the humorous category. These ones were just so bizarre. I don't know what was going on when I came up with some of these. Okay, before I show you this one, I just want to give some background as to why I went down the rabbit hole of some of these ideas. I obviously was having a hard time doing a depiction of me because the AI doesn't know what I look like. I was trying to think of different objects like a toy or a mannequin or something that is humanoid, but that is already a little abstract from a regular human. And it ended up being that those were some of the weirdest images it created. So this first one is the crochet line. And some of these are just so weird and creepy. There was definitely a part of me that thought maybe I could fix it, but they were just so far off from what they needed to be that I decided to just quickly change course and run in a completely different direction. Okay, for this next one, I was very confused when it actually spit out this image because I didn't understand why it got to this point. I asked for something having to do with claymation, but one of the keywords I used was Fantastic Mr. Fox. I was going for that aesthetic because through doing a ton of these, one of the things that I've learned is that if you reference specific movies or directors, then you can achieve a very specific look. But this one did not do that. This one was just such a shock. And then the last one in this humorous category, which I kind of alluded to, I asked for a mannequin, which I probably shouldn't have done. It just ended up not working. It was creepy and weird, and it just wasn't what I was expecting. There's one other image that I want to show, which was just so bizarre and so unexpected that it deserves its own category. This is the image. I'm trying to remember back to the prompt. I wanted like a face that was maybe made out of wood or like carved, and it just gave me a tree, and there's no like face in it or anything. This one just made me laugh, and I just thought it was absolutely ridiculous. So anyway, that was two days of my life, but not without some results. Oh my goodness, and I almost completely forgot. I spent so many hours just in this one category of like desert. This is over 200 images that I ended up making and ended up not moving forward with any of them. They were interesting, but overall just not the vibe that I was going for. But that adventure in the desert did lead me to my final profile picture. So I started here with some images of a man wandering in a desert. I also tried out a man floating in space, and I finally got to an image that had kind of the color and vibe that I was going for. So first I tried some variations of the guy looking straight on, and I tried lots of variations of this. We can speed it up. Yeah. Then I decided to go back to that original image, and I tried some variations of the guy looking the opposite direction. Again, lots of variations. Good, good, lots of variations. And finally got to the profile picture for now. So anyway, that's what I'm running with for the profile picture. Big surprise, you probably already saw it, so that's fun. So now I had the profile picture and just needed to create the channel art. So it's actually a fairly similar process because I could use that first image as a reference and then tried creating some landscape images. I really liked the vibe of these initial images that I created. Unfortunately, they were just too low resolution. So I had to scrap them for these higher resolution ones. I eventually got to this image. I don't know if I'm like so thrilled with it, but I think it does the trick and I'm more or less happy with it. Here it is in my channel. I'm really excited. I finally get to throw this all together and start making more videos. So I think that'll be it. Be sure to subscribe and all those YouTube things that people say, and I will see you very soon.